Welcome to West Coast Gridiron, the home of high school football on the left side of the map, where Friday night and lights mean everything and the next generation of stars is built under the lights. This isn't just scores and stats. This is about identity, toughness, and the grind it takes to earn respect out here. I am your host, Coach Freeman, and whether you're a coach, a player, or a parent, or just a fan of the game, this is your front row seat to the future of football. Let's get it. Today's episode, I wanted to talk about the difference between wide zone, outside zone, and stretch. Now, if you've spent any time around football coaches, clinics, social media football experts, you've probably heard these terms used interchangeably. But here's the truth. They are not exactly the same. While they all come from the zone running family, each has unique aiming points, blocking styles, timing, and philosophy. Today, we're breaking down the history behind the zone running schemes, the evolution from stretch to wide zone, running back footwork and reads, offensive line techniques, defensive responses, coaching points, and which schemes fit which teams best. So by the end of this episode, you're going to understand how the programs from Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and many others built offensive dynasties around these concepts. So buckle up. We're going to talk some ball here. So the history of zone running. To understand wide zone, outside zone, and stretch, you first need to understand where zone football came from. Traditional run games were built on gap schemes: power, counter, ISO, trap, and toss sweep. So again, your basic power game is you're going to pull one of these guards up and through, everyone else is down blocking, and they're creating another gap, hence gap scheme. Same thing when you go with just basic, we'll just say GT counter or GY counter in this case, just because of the front we have with the tight end. Put him over here so we can get a basic GY counter for you. So, sorry, GT counter. So if you want to do just a basic GT counter out of a four-man front, which again, everyone enjoys the four-man fronts because they're easier to draw up, to be brutally honest. I very rarely see a lot of odd fronts. It's one of those things where everyone just kind of sits back, and even fronts are just easier to draw up and faster to do. Your basic GT counter, again, he's going to make sure he sets the edge, make sure he does not cut across, get across his face there. He's going to pull and kick, and he's going to wrap right here, and you're going to have a down block there, and then probably back to backside backer and down block there. So you're creating a new gap here, hence gap scheme. So the problem with where the gap scheme runs where linemen block designated defenders. So it was always like gap down backer, things of that situation. They were always trying to count for their gap and block anything in the gap. So the issue became defenses became faster, more complex, and harder to predict. Again, changing fronts, moving alignments, making it harder to maybe line up. So something like this makes running GT counter very difficult because now he's got a nose. How can he down block here? How can you reset that? So again, offenses had to make some changes. So the birth of the zone in the 90s and 1990s, coaches like Alex Gibbs, Mike Shanahan, and Gary Kubiak helped revolutionize the NFL by creating systems where linemen blocked areas, so not defenders. This allowed simpler rules, better combo blocks, more horizontal stress on defenses, and smaller, more athletic offensive linemen to thrive. This became the base foundation of the Denver Broncos dynasty in the 90s, which later transformed football at every level. So instead of having to block a man, now if they were going to run, let's just say zone left, now they would block the area to their left. So if there was someone in their gap, they were blocking that area. If there was no one in their gap, then they would usually be like gap on, double up kind of thing. So like say, for example, if there's nobody in his gap, he would try to double. Well, if he can't double, then he's going to move up to next level. So he's blocking an area to the man. I mean, in very similar aspects, you could almost look at this as zone coverage. A cornerback has a zone, and then he has the man that comes in that zone. So if he's got cover two and he's got the flats, and he sits here in the flat and runs like a little 5-yard out or a little 5-yard out here, well, he's got the flat, that's his guy. So similar idea to your zone blocking. Well, I got the gap to my left. We're running zone left. There's nobody in that gap. Where's the next man? Well, that's too far. They're going to double team here. So I'm going to move on up to the next level and get that gap. So the basics, let's begin with stretch. Stretch is the overall original concept of wide zone and outside zone. Force the defense to run horizontally, run the ball to the perimeter as fast as possible. And that could have happened with some kind of toss here. That could happen if he's sidecar and he's just literally turning bait and trying to run to the sideline as fast as possible. Fast lateral movement. Running back aims for the outside leg of the tight end. So his aiming point when he's going is basically that aiming point right there, or the ghost tight end if there was no tight end. And what do I mean by ghost tight end? Let's just say we're in like some kind of a trip set or a trio set over here. Then again, if there was an imaginary tight end, then he's aiming for the outside leg of that tight end in that regard. So offensive line, they are aggressively reaching. So he's trying to get all the way to this edge and help. So that way that running back can then attack to the outside of the ghost tight end. It's designed to hit outside first. That's what it's designed for. That is stretch. It is trying to get to the outside edge. It's not trying to do anything else. It is literally trying to stretch the perimeter and stretch the defense horizontally as best as possible. It is a race to the edge. Stretch is often designed to bounce, outflank, and punish over pursuit. So again, if they can, they want to bounce it outside and outflank the defense, whether they're going to motion him inside and try and push crack here. And again, nowadays you can't really crack, but I mean, if you were to run him into a motion to here and then bring him to the outside, now you can really get to that outside edge and really outflank the defense. Again, at the high school level anyway, most states, they don't allow you to actually crack anymore because of blindside block. So they don't really allow that anymore in that regard. But again, you could like get in the way and kind of force him to move around you. So again, it's bounce, outflank, and punish the over pursuit. So outside zone, however, evolved from stretch. It's threaten the perimeter. If you want to think of it this way, we want to threaten the perimeter, but we want to be able to have a vertical cut. So press wide, cut vertical. Similar path to stretch, more controlled aiming point. Running back reads the force defender, and the cutback lanes are emphasized. O-line uses reach, rip, and runs. Again, whereas before, like they were literally trying to reach to get to the edge. Now they might reach, rip, and run up to the next level. And so then that way they can create a lane. So for example, his aiming point might still be the outside leg of the tight end. But say, for example, if he steps out hard out here, then he's going to be taught to push him out. And then as the tailback makes his read, he's going to cut vertical off of that ghost tight end or real tight end, depending on what formation you're in. So if there is no tight end, let's just move him to the other side. We'll say, he's a ghost tight end, whatever. So we'll say there's the tackle. They're in a 4-man front. And let's just say he jumps out here. Well, the tackle's not going to be able to reach and set the edge. So he's just going to push him out. So again, your tailback, instead of trying to stretch all the way to the outside because he's not going to get there, he's going to make that read, see that he's outside, and then cut it up once he sees that. So it's going to be more of a bounce, bang, bend kind of thing. And he could bend it back, but for the most part, with outside zone, it's going to be a bang or a bounce. For the most part, he's either going to bang it up inside the tackle or he's going to bounce it out. Again, depending on the front, he could bend it back depending on where these guys are aligned. But for the most part, he's going to either bounce it or bang it, depending on the front and what that tackle does. Now, obviously, if this weak side defensive end or play side defensive end, if he plays it more head up and the tackle is able to reach him, well, now he's going to continue his path to the outside. So it all depends. Again, that's his read. Whereas before, it was just get to the outside and go and outflank the defense. Now the running back has a read off of the aiming point. And that's going to be similar to wide zone. Now, the ultimate coaching point for outside zone is press, read, decide. Yeah. Press, read, decide. Outside zone creates a bounce, bang, and bend mentality. Unlike what we'll talk about now, wide zone is the modern, refined version of stretch and outside zone. So philosophy for the wide zone is create displacement through speed, leverage, and horizontal force. The goal is to stretch the defense horizontally while maximizing one cut efficiency. So characteristics, wider initial track, precision footwork, elite timing, greater use of play action complement, and requires disciplined reads. It's slow to fast through. Wide zone is more surgical than stretch. So with wide zone versus stretch, again, in wide zone, very big, very popular in the 1990s with Shanahan and the Denver Broncos. So whereas stretch is going to go straight out to the edge right now and get out, outside zone is going to either bang or bounce. Your wide zone is very rarely going to go outside whatsoever. It's going to hit up inside more than it is going to hit up outside. even though it's called wide zone, because a lot of your times these guys are going to displace, and the tailback who was reading the ghost tight end or the tight end, or in this case, the outside leg of the tackle, that's his first read. Then he goes to his second read. So, for example, if this guy's pushed out, he's going to look at the second read. If the second read is hooked, then he's going to go. If the second read is also getting pushed out, so for whatever reason these guys are all out, 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 then he's going to bang it all the way back here. And you'd see that, especially in the San Francisco 49ers of now, you'll see Christian McCaffrey cut all the way back behind the center. But essentially, he's at basically where the tackle's at, but he's cutting behind the center because everything is getting washed down and pushed out. So, whereas, again, stretch is going to be out here, your outside zone is going to be either bouncing out or bending just inside that B gap, C gap, depending on if you have a tight end or not. Wide zone is going to hit anywhere between there and sometimes all the way back here. And then again, rarely it'll go outside. But I mean, we're talking the rarest of rarest occasions it's going to go outside. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to go B, A, or backside A, all depending on how the front is and how everything gets washed down. So for your running backs, as far as the reads are concerned, when it comes to what they're looking at and what they're cutting off of, this is where the schemes truly separate themselves from each other. So the stretch, running back is going to focus on end man and line of scrimmage, or in this case, perimeter leverage, immediate edge threat. That's what he's going to focus on. So who's the end man on the line of scrimmage? Is it a 4-3? Is it a 3-4? Is it a backer? Is it a defensive end? So he's going to focus on end man line of scrimmage, and he's going to sprint basically laterally as fast as he can to get to that edge. Shoulders are square and it's fast flow. Can he beat the force defender? Can he beat that guy to the edge? So the decision is going to be bounce, plant and get vertical, and then the rare cutback. Like when it's stretch, rarely are you going to see that maneuver. It's going to be get to the edge or get vertical. So it's going to be get here or push it up vertical depending on how the block is going. So that's your stretch. It's outside or bang it back. Very rarely is he going to do a cutback. Outside zone, classic progression, very simple, very clean. If edge is sealed, bounce. If alley opens up inside the tackle, bang it. And then if backside pursuit overruns, bend it. So again, if the edge is sealed, just like this, so if he's able to seal it right there, then he's going to bounce it out. If the alley opens up because he has to push this defensive end or whatever out, then he's going to bang it up inside. So he's going to attack that outside edge and he's going to bang right up in the alley. And then if for some whatever reason pursuit overruns him, so all these guys really jump and jump out, then he's going to bend it back very close to your wide zone. But again, that's not the aiming point. So outside zone reads, read helmet, read hip. So he's looking at the helmet and then reading the hip as well. So your wide zone is going to be even slower than your outside zone read. So it's going to look more as press the landmark, manipulate the backers, one decisive cut. That's essentially what you're going to get out of a wide zone read. So he's going to press it hard, press, press, press. He wants to get these backers to move, and then he wants to then press it back vertical, which in this case would be if everyone's doing their job and pushing it out, he's going to basically be cutting it right behind the center, which is what you will end up seeing. So his landmark is going to be the tight end or ghost tight end, outside leg of the tackle. The key is the running back must force the linebackers to flow before he cuts. So it's an elite trait in patience. So you got to, if you want to look at some different tape, you're going to look at Christian McCaffrey from this modern era, Arian Foster from back at the Houston Texan days, and then you're going to look at Terrell Davis from back in the 1990s with the Denver Broncos. So again, running back reads, to just sum them all up. Stretch, it's can I outrun the force defender? Can I outrun the end defender? Can I outrun him in stretch? Outside zone, can I bang it, up inside the tackle, or can I bounce it out? Rarely, occasionally bend it back depending on the front. And then wide zone, I'm going to press, press, press. I'm going to get these linebackers to move, and then I'm going to bang it up inside and cut back. Rarely am I going to go outside. So that's your running back read as far as that's concerned. When it comes to the offensive line technique, this is where the championships are going to be won and lost. But I mean, that's where it's won and lost anywhere. It's always in the trenches. You all know that. So, as far as your stretch blocking, core principle is going to be reach everything. It's going to be reach, 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 and bucket step, rip and run, full lateral sprint, and reach and reseal. So, again, when it's stretch, everyone is trying to get to that edge and seal everything back inside. There is no push them out. There's no nothing, because again, if it's stretched, they want to get outside. So they are trying to bucket step and get outside, almost like a pull, rip and run. They're ripping by, trying to rip by here. Maybe he's trying to rip by this guard, this nose tackle, and get up to the next backer. He's trying to rip so he can get on the other side of this defensive tackle. So again, they're ripping and running, full lateral sprint, trying to make sure they gain the edge for the running back so he can cut outside. So that's more along the lines for the offensive line. They're trying to get that edge because it's stretch. It's get outside, or it's go broke, basically. Go broke, try to make a profit, and trying to get to the outside. It's harder against wide nines. So again, if these guys widen out, if there's no tight end and they really widen, that makes it really hard for a tackle to get out there. Requires elite athleticism, and it's difficult for larger linemen. So again, if you have big tackles, stretch is going to be difficult, especially if they widen people out, or even if they play something similar to this and you don't have any edge help. He's got to reach out to a backer, and he's got to reach all the way over to a 4 or even a 5 tech, depending on where he's got, whether it's a 4-eye or a 5. So again, that guard's got to reach if he's over the tackle, plus it's in a 3-4 look, and you didn't give him any help, which again would be a poor play call in that regard. But again, he's trying to reach and get outside. Wide nines make it difficult. Larger linemen make it difficult as far as trying to get out there and get that stretch play going. Outside zone blocking, the core principle is going to be covered, uncovered rules. So zone step, reach step, combo to linebacker, overtake, and climb. So right now, if they're going play side, is he covered, uncovered, covered, uncovered? So for example, he'd be covered, he's covered. Right now, he's uncovered. So, and then he's covered. So they might double, they might not. It all depends on where that backer is. And then he'd be uncovered to the play side. So again, these are all going to basically reach and zone step, and they're going to reach or drive if they're covered. So if they can reach him and he can set the edge, great. If he can't and he has to drive him out, then he will stick him in the ground and drive him out. Again, that's where the kind of read part comes in for the running back. So similar, again, adding a little layer to it with stretch. It gives you the ability now where the running back has some decisions they can make, and they have ways to get out of a sticky situation if for some reason they're in wide nines. Like if he lines up way out here, he's not going to reach him. He's just going to basically wash him out and push him out. And then we're looking to hear is, can he reach him, or does he have to push him out? So on and so forth. So looking covered, uncovered rules for the offensive line to make it real simple, real easy. So I mean, again, if it was more like a odd front kind of thing, then you would have covered, uncovered rules as well. So he'd be covered. Again, not the best formation, probably more along the lines of this to kind of make it more realistic here. So again, he's covered. He's going to either wash him out or reach him. He's covered. He's going to take his own step because, again, you don't know if he's going to go out or he's going to go in. If he goes in, that's fine because the guard can pick him up. So he's covered. He's covered. You know, we got uncovered, covered, uncovered. And then depending on where he is, if he's outside, he could be uncovered. If he's headed up to inside, could be covered. So it all depends on what he does with there. So then again, they're all taking their zone step or reach step, and then they're comboing the linebacker. Again, if they can get a combo, great. If not, they're working their way up to overtake and climb. And what overtake simply means is, like, let's just say he attacks head up for whatever reason. Like, let's just say he does that. He attacks him straight on, and they're able to get a combo here and bump him off. That's fantastic. I mean, that's what I mean by combo to linebacker and overtake. He's going to overtake that, bump him off up to the next level. So combo if they can, and overtake if they can. If not, then again, he might just push and push, and then he might end up cutting up depending on what that end does, and then he might end up washing him out as well, depending on where their alignment is. So a couple different ways they can do that. Again, it's a combo block, and either he can overtake him, or for whatever reason he's trying to continue to play that edge, he can bump his hip, like a little gallop step, bump him into the way for the tackle, and then overreach and wash him out, and then the tailback can make a cut off of that as well. So a couple different ways they can do that with the combo and overtake rules to help them climb to the next level. So covered is going to reach or drive, uncovered is going to combo, help, then climb. So that's kind of the idea there as far as what their blocking schemes are going to be. So he's going to reach and drive right here, reach and drive. He's going to combo to help, and then either overtake or climb. It all depends on, again, what that guy's going to do as far as if he's going to play down hard inside, or if he's going to widen out or try and stay play head up. So linemen got to work combos a lot to get used to this. And then that leads us into the core principle of the wide zone blocking, which is horizontal displacement with a vertical finish. So all the linemen, instead of taking reach or drive steps, they're all going to take more lateral steps, crossover steps, shoulder leverage, hip to hip combos, and strain on double teams. Create seams. They don't necessarily have to dominate. That's kind of the nice thing about wide zone. You don't need a vertical push for this to work. So it creates seams and not necessarily dominate. The hallmark is synchronization. And this is why teams drill ace, deuce, trey combos, and every step matters as far as that's concerned. So again, they're going to take more lateral steps and work the combos this way. So as this defensive end sees that and he's working laterally, well, now they can get him in a position to combo him, so on and so forth. And he might take more of that lateral step to get up and over across. He's going to lateral and either help combo or move his way up. And they're not necessarily trying to climb, but they're pushing him laterally, trying to create seams here, here, and here. So then that way the tailback can then make a decision if he wants to then cut it up, bang it back, or bend it all the way back here, or if he wanted to bounce it out. So again, they're trying to create seams by pushing these guys out and out of the way. Now, again, you could have a read here. This is where wide zone helps with the bootleg. So again, if he were under center running wide zone, for example, which was very big, very popular, this kind of really helps with the play action. He could step, he's coming across, and then you allow him with the boot principles to then boot outward to then run any kind of play action off of this defensive end, depending on what he's playing. If he's really trying to crash down on the wide zone hard. I mean, what you see now is you could still get some zone read principles out of this. If you're running it sidecar wise out of the spread, you could do it from a pistol position as well, where he gets the same idea. He gets to turn and run. But I mean, for more often than not, you're probably going to see it more from a little bit of the sidecar position, where he's going and then the QB can read this defensive end to this backer again, depending on if you're going to block him. If you're not, if you're going to read him, he can pull it. If you're going to try and bring in some veer triple option principles where you're going to read him and then quarterback's going to pull and then read off the next defender for either a bubble screen or a now screen, depending on what you want to do there. Or if you're going to block him and just RPO that backside, you can do it either way, depending on what you want to do there. Again, go back. I did a whole section on triple option principles and RPOs and play action last week. So go back and take a look at that. But anyway, again, lateral steps, ace, deuce, trey combos, trying to get everything to move horizontal to create seams for the tailback to read. So that's going to be a big key for the offensive line, is just lateral movement, lateral movement. And again, the nice thing is, like with stretch, you could have bigger tackles because you're trying to attack the edge. Wide zone and outside zone, you can have more athletic, faster linemen because it's not necessarily about pushing them vertical as much as it is pushing them horizontal to create those seams and get the linebackers moving. So why is Shanahan's wide zone is different? He's elevated wide zone beyond a run play. He turned it into a full offensive ecosystem with complementary pieces, bootlegs, naked keepers, play action, split flow, jet motion, insert blockers. Results, basically the defense is going to hesitate. So now kind of what did all that mean? So again, what we talked about, if you want to play action it, you could run bootlegs either with a pass concept, So you could have some kind of little pass concept if you wanted for a bootleg out here, or you could just run a naked bootleg. So let's just say you're in a tray set and you have 3 receivers out here instead. Well, now you can run a naked bootleg because now the defense kind of has to make a decision on whether it's a 3-4 or 4-3. How are they going to guard all these people over here? Because you got 3 receivers to this side. So then you can get a naked bootleg on that side. Again, play action, same thing. You could essentially run it again. If you want to run it this way, have him take off. He's going to settle and then settle back. And now you got 3 receivers to this side. Again, it doesn't have to be this formation. This is just kind of giving you an idea. Play action and settle, and you can run seams. You can run a flood concept. You can run a sail concept, a dagger concept. You can attach anything you want to off the play action here. Some hole shots, deep shots, whatever you want to attach to it, especially if you got them moving horizontally on any kind of wide zone. And so then that way, if they're moving horizontally, you're going to be able to get behind them relatively easily. So play action was big. Split flow, again, depending on what you're doing, you could have the sniffer, what they call it here, and you could still be running him split flow, have him coming across, whether he's kicking or whether he's sneaking out for that play action pass as well. So you could be running wide zone, having him kick out, and then all of a sudden have him leak, which leads into a little bit of an RPO thing. So you get that split flow look where tailback's going this way, fullback's going the opposite, or sniffer, whatever you want to call it. Jet motion. You can run wide zone off of jet motion if you wanted to. You can insert blockers. So even if you're running it away from the wide zone, if you run the wide zone here, you can have him insert on the backside. You can have him insert on the front side. Again, it all depends on what you want to do with him and what you're trying to isolate. When you're insert, it's basically an ISO mixed with a zone. What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to attack? So that causes defense to hesitate. Hesitate kills defense. Wide zone becomes deadly because every motion looks identical. It creates false steps, eye violations, and gap confusion. Shanahan's genius isn't just with wide zone; it's marrying everything together with the play action, with the bootlegs, with the split flow, and with the jet motion. So again, it becomes a very, very difficult thing for the defense to do when you can add all those pieces together and still run the same play. So what does the defense do when the offense is making this look so similar, marrying everything together, and adding all these little pieces to it to make it extremely difficult to defend? So defense is going to attack the zone with spill techniques. They're going to try and force the ball wider and try and again, they might slant in and do things of that nature. Penetration to try and disrupt the tracks. They might try to blitz in and get into that area where if it's down in this if he's under center, they might try to really get down into that mesh point to really disrupt everything. They might do it with a blitz. They might do it with a slant. Slants to change the blocking angles. So again, they might try to slant him hard inside. They might slant him wide and slant him wide as well to try and again to really elongate and spill that thing to the wide side as far as they can. So, and then using bear fronts, covering all the interior alignment. So they might try to bring him down into a 3, bring him down into a 3, and then bring down that outside backer, bring down that outside backer to really make it hard to reach and run and do everything in that regard. And that way everyone's taken up and they can have an extra hat to the ball. And then using wide nines, if they're maybe got some really athletic guys, maybe they might run more something to where he's going to really widen out. They know they're going to play a heavy wide zone team. They're going to widen everything out. So then that way it makes it more difficult for these tackles and tight ends to get out there. So that's some of the answers they have. And then how's the offense going to counter? Again, with some of the same things we just talked about. They're going to bootleg out. If they get heavy overflow, heavy pursuit, they're going to run some split zone. Well, they'll bring that H-back back across. They're going to run pin and pull. So if they have the ability to pin anybody in, so say, for example, maybe they're in something like this, and they're able to pin him in and then pull this guard around and pin him and pull the other guard, almost basically like a buck sweep kind of idea. They'll use pin and pull. They'll use some duo techniques. Well, they'll end up getting some double teams and be a little bit more vertical, and then maybe some toss crack. So, and what toss crack would look like is essentially where he's going to reverse pivot out, toss him the ball, and then these guys are going to crack down hard inside of the first to really get him to the outside edge. So that's going to be an offensive answers for when the defense slants, uses their spill techniques to force the ball wider, penetrate, or use wide nines. They're going to try and toss crack. duo, pin pull. Zone systems thrive when answers exist. When every zone team is able to find an answer, that's just going to make it thrive more and more and more. So, which is best for your team? Stretch is going to be better for your team if you have really fast backs, really good speed backs that can out there and get out on the perimeter as fast as can. Athletico linemen, you can have bigger offensive linemen as long as they're athletic. Because again, if you want them to be able to get to that next gap over or that next man over, and then perimeter threats. So if you have the ability to have these guys not only run routes, but they're able to block out on the perimeter, that's going to make stretch very, very enticing for you as a play caller. And then fast edge pressure and simplicity, you know, cons, it's vulnerable to penetration and there's less cutback flexibility because, again, his job is to get to the edge now. There is really no cutback. It's reach and drive and set an edge and be able to get to the outside. So that's really your cons there. Outside zone, best for a balanced roster. You have a smart running back and you have a strong tight end that can really help you set an edge or push him out if need to be. It's versatile. There's multiple entry points because, again, now that tailback gets to make a read and he gets to decide if that tight end's able to push him out. Can I bang it out, bounce it outside, or do I have to bang it up inside or bounce it back just a little bit farther towards the tackle? So again, a little bit more choices for the running back. It requires disciplined reads, though. That's one of the cons. So it takes a lot of time to really get that tailback reading that tight end spot and even that tackle spot to really understand where he needs to go. And then wide zone, if you have a really smart offensive line and a patient running back, and it takes full commitment, it becomes your staple. If you're going to be wide zone is your bread and butter. It's not, well, we run it sometimes. It's like, no, wide zone has to have full offensive commitment. It's going to take a lot of your time, a lot of your effort, and a lot of your coaching points. So the pros is it can be an explosive play. It has elite play action potential, and it is NFL proven. I mean, I just named off, the Gary Kubiaks of the world, the Shanahan, the Kyle Shanahan, the Mike Shanahans of the world. They made a living off of that system. The cons for it is hard to master, and it is technique heavy. So the offensive line, it's going to take forever. The running backs, the quarterbacks, it's going to take forever. It is hard to master, but if you get it going at the high school level, it can be near unstoppable based on your roster and everything else. So again, kind of take a look at your roster, what you think fits best for you. Coaching points for installation. Offensive line, first step wins. Now, of course, you're going to say that that's with every system. That is true. First step always wins. They need to understand covered, uncovered clarity when it comes to these systems, hip leverage, and combo communication. They need to understand how to get their hips around, how to create leverage so they can either seal or push a defender out to help either open up running lanes or help seal the edge. And then combo communication, is he ripping and throwing? Is he overtaking? Is he bouncing off and working his way up? And so on and so forth. So huge communication there. For your running backs, landmark discipline. Is it stretch and he's just trying to get to the outside as fast as possible? Is it outside zone where he's aiming to that outside of the tight end or outside of the tackle? Or is it wide zone where he's a similar aiming point, but he's looking to read that cut? So press with conviction, read leverage, one cut and get vertical. It's not two cuts. It's one cut and go. And then tight ends, can they maintain edge integrity? Can they reach or widen? Can they create a backside cutoff? And then for your quarterbacks, ball handling, boot mechanics, and defensive manipulation. How are they going to get the defense to move where they want them to go? So that's that little piece as far as for your quarterbacks is, can they handle that? Because again, if it's wide zone, they're going to have a lot of different things they can do between bootlegs, play action. You can add some RPO to it as well, again, depending on how intelligent and who you're trying to manipulate and things of that nature. If it's just stretch, again, you could probably create some boot off a stretch. Everything has the ability for those kinds of things, those outside plays where you can kind of add a boot or naked boot to it. So that's going to require the ball handling mechanics, attaching it to their hip, showing the ball, pulling it back, things of that nature, and then the footwork that comes with the progression after that and manipulating the defense where you want to go. So again, quarterback's going to be a huge deal for that. I mean, all four of those are big. So again, it's kind of take a look at which one fits your players, which one fits your philosophy, and then move forward on that. Final thoughts from me: wide zone, outside zone, stretch. They're brothers. They're not twins. So they're all related in some way, shape, or form, but they are not exactly the same. Stretch is pure perimeter. Outside zone is perimeter threat with a vertical option. And then wide zone is complete offensive philosophy. The best coaches understand it's not about memorizing plays, it's about teaching timing, footwork, leverage, decision making. Because in zone football, one step can be the difference between a 2-yard gain and a house call. So that's a wrap on another episode of West Coast Gridiron. If you're loving the show, make sure to subscribe, share it with your football circle, and keep supporting these young athletes chasing greatness every single Friday night. We'll be back next time with more stories, more breakdowns, and more of the best high school football you're going to find anywhere. Until then, stay disciplined, stay hungry, and keep your eyes on the gridiron.